What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sports Magazine Collector. I'm Brad, and today we're going to continue my countdown series. We are now moving into the 2000s. So I've counted down the top Sports Illustrated issues from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. We've only got 2 decades left. We're doing the 2000s now. So today I'm going to share the honorable mentions. These are the covers that just missed out on my top 40 for the top covers of the 2000s. And I think I've got 40 honorable mentions here listed for you today. So we're going to go through them pretty rapid fire. Let's jump in. All right, these covers are not in any particular order other than maybe the last couple. And so let's go ahead and see what we got. We're going to start off with Johnny Unitas. This is from 2002. So Johnny Unitas, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play, won a Super Bowl with the Colts. I believe he was a 3-time MVP, and this was after he passed away in 2002. So a lot of times when these superstar or these legendary athletes pass away, they'll do a commemorative issue on the SI Presents, but this was an actual weekly issue. So to me, that adds a little bit of value here, adds a little bit of collectability. And yeah, it's also a really awesome image, old school in color image of Johnny Unitas back in the day when he was quarterbacking the Colts. Next up, Juan Dixon from 2002. So Juan Dixon, he did not go on to have a successful NBA career or anything, but if you're watching college hoops in 2002, he was a big time college player, and Maryland won the NCAA championship under Juan Dixon, as well as some other stars like Steve Blake, who did have a good NBA career, Chris Wilcox. So they had a big time team, and I just think this is a really cool cover. I think that if you've got a fan base, the Maryland basketball fan base, this probably would be like the #1 cover out there for them. Just a really memorable run, really memorable team, and he was a memorable player as well. So this made the honorable mentions. Dale Earnhardt Sr. So this is his first cover. There just were not a lot of NASCAR covers. I actually went through and counted. I think there's something like 46 NASCAR, or not even NASCAR, but auto racing. So it includes like the Indy 500. 46 auto racing covers in the history of Sports Illustrated. And almost all of those were like prior to 1985. So this is one of the few more modern covers. And this was after the great Dale Earnhardt, of course, tragically was killed in a crash. And this was his first cover, believe it or not. He had been on some commemorative ones, but this was the first time he was on a weekly cover. This was in 2001. So there are a few examples in Sports Illustrated history of non-athletes, like some actors and other celebrities being on the cover. And this was one. This is Chris Rock. This was in the year 2000. And Chris Rock, of course, a very well-known comedian, was on Saturday Night Live early in his career, and has now been in plenty of movies and done stand-up, and of course most recently well known for being slapped in the face by Will Smith. But this is a pretty cool cover here to have a celebrity non-athlete. All right, 2000, Anna Kournikova, first cover. So Anna Kournikova, if you remember, she was a tennis player in the early 2000s. Had a brief run of success. Never. I don't know that she ever even won a major. If she did, maybe only a couple. Anna Kournikova was super popular for other reasons, largely because the male gender found her to be very attractive. And I think you can see here on this cover why this would be a desirable issue. Anna Kournikova was definitely a very pretty female tennis athlete star back in the early 2000s. And so there's no doubt that this is a desirable and collectible issue. 2005, Jennie Finch. So some of the same could be said for Jennie Finch as what was said in the previous with Anna Kournikova. Jennie Finch, definitely very attractive female athlete. A lot of guys would say that they had big crush on Jennie Finch, but she's a little bit more than that. She's kind of like the GOAT of her sport, or at least she's the most well known of softball, of women's softball. And this is her first solo cover. She had been on one other cover with a group of other athletes, but this is strictly Jennie, 2005. John Madden, 2002. This was his first and only cover. We know that John Madden, absolute legend, passed away here recently in the past year or two. Was a legendary coach with the Oakland Raiders, was a legendary broadcaster, did Monday Night Football, teamed up with Pat Summerall. That's my favorite broadcasting combo of all time. And of course, has the iconic football video game franchise. So this is a pretty unique and neat cover here from 2002. Ben Wallace, he is a Hall of Famer, played for the Detroit Pistons, won a couple championships with them. Actually, maybe they only won one. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I do know that they defeated the stacked Lakers team that not only had Shaq and Kobe, but also they had brought in an aged Karl Malone and Gary Payton. But the Pistons starting five was just as well rounded as they come. Rip Hamilton, Chauncey Billups, Tayshaun Prince, Rasheed Wallace, and then of course Ben Wallace here, and he won a couple Defensive Players of the Year in consecutive years. He was just an absolute beast, and so this is his first cover from 2004. Troy Polamalu, this is another defensive stud, of course, in the sport of football. Longtime Pittsburgh Steeler. He's a Hall of Fame player, and this was his first cover from 2005. Gotta love the hair. Polamalu, of course, has those great commercials. What is it? It's like dandruff commercials, some sort of shampoo, but he's definitely getting some use out of that great flow that he has. Next up, we've got Michael Vick. This is his first pro cover. This is from 2004. So he was on one previous weekly cover in college when he was with Virginia Tech, but this is the first time in his NFL uniform with the Atlanta Falcons. This cover just reminds me of the Michael Vick experience. Remember that commercial where you basically like strapped into a roller coaster and it's simulated as if you were Michael Vick, just like scrambling and spinning and juking defenders. And that was an awesome commercial. And Michael Vick, I know he had his troubles, but he was one of the most electric players that I have ever seen right around this time when he was quarterbacking the Atlanta Falcons. So this one definitely had to come on the list. All right, here we have 2004 Sports Illustrated. This has some Boston Red Sox, Johnny Damon, Pedro Martinez, Curt Schilling, but David Ortiz is the reason that this one has a little bit of significance because this is his first cover. So Big Papi, very beloved athlete in Boston, recently inducted into the Hall of Fame. 2003 Kobe Bryant. This is Kobe's run, 13 games, 551 points. Anything with Kobe Bryant is going to be collectible. This is an awesome cover with a great shot of Kobe driving it to the hoop. And this was in kind of towards the end of the Lakers run, whenever him and Shaq were still together for a little bit longer. But once again, anything Kobe is definitely going to be very desirable. All right, here we have Danica Patrick. So Danica Patrick making history at Indy. She was the first female auto racer. I'm not super knowledgeable about the NASCAR and the Indy 500 and all the different types of racing, but I do know that Danica Patrick was a big deal. She was kind of a groundbreaker, and this is her very first cover from 2005. It's March. Let the madness begin. This is one of my personal favorites. This is Dee Brown from the Illinois Fighting Illini in 2005. So this is one where, Dee Brown, he did play in the NBA a little bit, didn't have a great NBA career, but he was a big-time college star for 4 years, was a main player on their 2005 national runner-up team that got second to North Carolina, starred alongside of Darren Williams and Luther Head. And this is just a classic March Madness cover. Just shows the emotion of college basketball. It was during a really fun time in college hoops. This Illinois team started off, I want to say they won like their first maybe 27 games or so. I think they were undefeated all the way up until their very last conference game of the year. Ohio State knocked them off, and they had a number one seed in the NCAA tournament. But Illinois has a really large fan base, and kind of like I mentioned earlier with that Maryland cover, this particular cover would be one of the most desired issues for Illinois fans, and that's definitely the case for me. I have a degree from Illinois, and this is just to me, it's just an awesome cover, whether you're an Illini fan or not. All right, this one is pretty cool. This is from the year 2000. This was the Subway Series whenever the New York Mets faced off against the New York Yankees in the World Series. And so these were special editions that were put out during the week of October 23rd, 2000. And from my understanding, these were only available on the newsstands in the New York City area. And so there were two variant covers, as you can see. One of them had Mike Piazza and the other had Derek Jeter. All right, here's one pretty cool that you don't see too often. This is Steve Smith, wide receiver, mostly for the Carolina Panthers. Not in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. He should be. I think he definitely still has a shot. And this is his first cover, and it's a variant. So once again, it's an issue you don't see too often. This same week actually happened to have a Big Ben cover as well. I think this might have been the week of Big Ben Roethlisberger's first cover. But this variant was Steve Smith. Reggie Bush played in the NFL, decent NFL career, amazing college career, one of the most amazing college football players I have ever seen, probably the most electric college football player I've ever seen. This was his very first cover, and this is such an awesome image to be Reggie Bush's first cover because this is just exactly what he was like. The dude just flew around. He would just fly into the end zone. Here he's flipping into the end zone. He was almost unstoppable. Won a Heisman Trophy. It was vacated. In my opinion, give that thing back to him. But yeah, very cool cover here of Reggie Bush playing for USC in 2004, back in the Trojans' heyday. All right, we got Landon Donovan from 2002, probably the most well-known American male soccer player. Had a great career, played in several World Cups. Landon Donovan, he's beloved, and soccer has continued to become a growing sport in popularity in the U.S. And Landon Donovan was the face of that for a long time, and probably for many still is the most recognizable name and face for American soccer players. Coming through, it's Shaquille O'Neal in the year 2000. So this was in the prime of the Lakers three-peat run. 2000 was their first championship in the three-peat. And yeah, Shaq was just unstoppable. I think this might have been the year that he won the MVP. And it's just an awesome cover. He's getting, as he usually did, getting like double and triple teamed and slapped and scratched all over. And you know what? He still probably ended up jamming this here in this photo. Same year, same team, different superstar. We've got Kobe Bryant, and this is actually Kobe's first solo cover. His first cover, of course, he shared with Magic Johnson. He was on another cover with Phil Jackson that actually had Phil Jackson with a little snow globe that had Kobe and Shaq both inside of it. And then he was on another one, I think, with Brian Grant of the Portland Trailblazers. But here he is basically, taking the spotlight on this cover. And this was after Kobe and Shaq won that famous series in Game 7 to defeat the Portland Trailblazers. This was when they had the iconic alley-oop. Kobe crossed up Scottie Pippen and tossed the oop to Shaq, who flew up and jammed it down with one hand. So one of the most memorable series, and that took the Lakers to their first NBA championship, where they would eventually defeat the Indiana Pacers with Reggie Miller. So very cool cover here. Survivors, Kobe Bryant, first solo cover, 2000. Albert Pujols, one of the greatest baseball players of our generation, if not the greatest of our generation. This is his second cover from 2006. So we know that after the first cover, a lot of times the second cover is going to be the next best thing. And so good chance you're going to be seeing Albert's first cover on my top 40 list, but here's his second cover in the honorable mentions. Isaac Bruce, 2000, Hall of Fame wide receiver. This is his first cover. This was from those amazing St. Louis Rams teams, the greatest show on turf. Of course, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, Marshall Faulk, Kurt Warner, and yeah, very cool cover here from right around that time where they were going to win that Super Bowl. One of the greatest point guards of all time, Steve Nash. He won back-to-back MVPs in the mid-2000s with the Phoenix Suns, and here he is. This was his first cover on Sports Illustrated from 2005. All right, here's one that you might not see a lot. This has Diana Taurasi and Emeka Okafor, both stars for UConn. This is from 2003. First cover for both. Emeka Okafor was a #1 overall pick in the NBA, but the value and the collectability here from this one comes from Diana Taurasi because she is arguably, debatably, the greatest women's basketball player of all time. And so, for her to potentially be considered a GOAT of her sport and this to be her first cover, that definitely brings some collectability. Next up, we've got Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow was a legendary college quarterback. He did have a little bit of success in the NFL as well, led the Broncos to at least one playoff win. And he's kind of an iconic figure, of course, very well known to be a strong Christian. Now he's a common analyst and personality that you'll see on ESPN. And this was his very first cover. It was a variant, and this was from 2008. And so from the same exact variant issue as the Tim Tebow cover, that week also produced the first cover for Matthew Stafford. So also from 2008, Matthew Stafford was the quarterback of the Georgia Bulldogs. Also next to him is Noshawn Moreno, who was a pretty good running back in the NFL for the Denver Broncos. But Matthew Stafford won a Super Bowl here pretty recently with the the Los Angeles Rams. And he's going to be a borderline Hall of Fame player once it's all said and done. When you look at his overall stats, I'm not really sure that they're going to be there. I think he's only been selected to one All-Pro team or one Pro Bowl. That's going to hurt him. But his cumulative stats are probably going to be pretty high as far as career passing yards and passing touchdowns and that type of thing. And then the Super Bowl win obviously is going to be a big boost. So this is his first cover, and it's a variant from 2008. All right, this cover, to me, one of the most underrated issues of all Sports Illustrated, and you're going to be seeing the other copies. You're going to be seeing some of the other copies of this cover come up multiple times on my upcoming countdowns. So this week, it was a 1 of 6 variant. There were 6 different covers. Here we have Kevin Garnett in his Boston Celtics jersey, and this one is such a cool cover because it's got the awesome color match. It's got the green background to go along with his green Celtics jersey. Other players who are on the cover this week, you had Kevin Durant, you had Dwight Howard, you had Elton Brand, you had Kobe Bryant, and you had LeBron James. And so with this being a 1 of 6 variant, these were only available in newsstand in certain regions. So this Kevin Garnett, for example, probably could only be found in the New England area on the East Coast, whereas the LeBron James was probably only available in the Midwest because he was playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers at that time. So the variants just make the covers that much more rare. When you think about how scarce it is to find just any newsstand, basically divide that by 6 in this case, since there were 6 copies. So I just think that the scarcity of this one, as well as the beauty of the color match, makes this a very desirable issue. And like I said, you're going to be seeing other instances of this same week pop up a little bit later. Next up, Vince Young. So this was another guy that mediocre at best NFL career, but gosh, was he the man in college at the University of Texas. Vince Young led the Longhorns to the national championship over USC, and it was one of the most iconic and memorable college football games in the history of the sport, in my opinion. So this was 2006. A beautiful cover image of Vince Young diving into the end zone. I mean, he basically carried Texas on his back, and you can see right there, unstoppable Vince Young racks up 467 yards, leading Texas to its first title in 35 years. So iconic game, iconic moment, iconic college player. Next up, Larry Walker, recently inducted into the MLB Hall of Fame. This is his first and his only Sports Illustrated cover. This is from 2001. Here we have Yao Ming, one of the most influential basketball players in the 2000s. He is in the Hall of Fame. of course, came over from China, had a successful NBA career, 7'5". And yeah, you got to love Yao. This is his first covers from 2002. The next big thing. I think it's a very cool cover. From 2003, we have Carmelo Anthony on the cover with the Syracuse orange. This is his first cover, and it's a variant. So this week, there were actually 5 covers, if I'm not mistaken. Each of the teams that made the Final Four had their own cover. So there was this one with Carmelo and Syracuse. I know that Dwayne Wade was on the cover with Marquette. And then I think Kansas had one, Texas had one. And then there was also kind of like a generic cover that had all 4 of the Final Four teams on there. And Carmelo was on that one as well. But I think, and so really, this is kind of a unique instance. Carmelo Anthony kind of has 2 first covers that were released in the same week, but this is definitely the best one because it's just him. And so, yeah, this one probably got some strong consideration for me to be in my top 40, but it just missed out and made the honorable mentions. Next up, we got Tiger Woods. We know that he dominated golf in the late 90s and all through the 2000s. And he's got a lot of really cool covers. His first cover came in at #1 on my top list for the 1990s. But with this one specifically, I think the reason that it stood out to me is just that you've got the famous Tiger fist pump, you've got the famous Tiger Sunday red, and it's just a really awesome photo, kind of in the prime of Tiger's career. Next up, we got David Ortiz again. So we had earlier his first cover, where he was also sharing it with several other Boston Red Sox stars. But this one stands out because it's his first solo cover, and it's just a really great cover of Poppy. Poppy's Rules, pretty neat issue here. This is from 2006. All right, Tom Brady, the GOAT of football. Can't argue with all those Super Bowl wins. His first cover is obviously going to be on the top 40 countdown. Here is his second cover. This is from 2004. Possibly the greatest Olympian of all time, Michael Phelps. What did he win? 20 plus gold medals, something crazy. This is his very first cover from 2004. This was as the U.S. Was preparing to head into the Olympics that were hosted in Athens, Greece. And you can see on the cover there, it even says Michael Phelps goes for 8. I don't remember how many he got, but he won multiple in this Olympics. Here we have James Harden, and this is a pretty tough one to find because, once again, this is a 1 out of 6 variant. So there were 6 different covers released this week, and this happens to be James Harden. James Harden's very first appearance on the cover of Sports Illustrated. This was from 2008. He was playing for Arizona State. James Harden, he's disliked by a lot of fans, kind of maybe for somewhat for his style of play, maybe somewhat for his attitude. He's never really been on like a championship winning team in the NBA, although this season having a lot of success with teaming up with Joel Embiid and the 76ers, so that could change. But when you look at the guy's career and his numbers, it's one of the most talented players to ever play. He's won an MVP. And so, yeah, this definitely has some collectability, especially when you add in the fact that it is a 1 out of 6 variant. Here we have Justin Verlander, putting together an amazing career. Just added another Cy Young here last season. Seems like he's getting better with age. This was his first cover in 2006, back when he was with the Detroit Tigers. He's been a very good pitcher for a pretty long time, and he will be an absolute lock to make the MLB Hall of Fame. All right, now we get to the point where these were the last few where I was really contemplating sticking them in the top 40, but at the end of the day, they just missed the cut. So we've already seen this cover. We saw Kevin Garnett earlier. This is that 1 out of 6 variant. Once again, has the color match. So this has got the blue background with Dwight Howard's Orlando Magic jersey. This is his very first cover. So with the Kevin Garnett, that was not his first cover. I definitely would consider Kevin Garnett to be a higher profile player than Dwight Howard, but Dwight Howard is going to be a Hall of Famer, hands down. In fact, in my opinion, he was one of the top 2 or 3 biggest snubs from the recent NBA All 75 team that they just put out. To me, he's right around that cutoff of a top 75 all-time player. I mean, when you look at his defensive stats and rebounds and blocks and been on some NBA championship level teams. He's had a great career, been a contributor on some gold medal Olympic teams. So this, with it being a first cover and a 1/6 variant, just missed my top 40. This probably would come in at number 42. But yeah, very, very awesome and difficult to find cover. And here's the last one. This one came in at number 41. Just barely left this one off. Kobe and Shaq. One of the most iconic and unstoppable duos in NBA history, possibly the greatest duo in NBA history. And this is the best cover by far that featured them together. There was another one that I actually mentioned earlier that had primarily Phil Jackson, but he was holding a little snow globe that had Kobe and Shaq both in it together. But and that one came before this. But this one is just, I mean, this is just a perfect example, a perfect illustration. That's the word I'm looking for. This is a perfect illustration of that dominant run of Shaq and Kobe together. Together again, this is where there's still some joy and harmony. We know that things got a little bit rocky for them as time went on, and they ended up kind of having to split up, and the Lakers had to choose one or the other. But man, when they were together, they were unstoppable. So this is an iconic cover here, and basically comes in at number 41 on my list. This was the one that just missed the top 40 countdown. All right, that's it. Let me know what you think in the comments. I really appreciate you watching. Please like, please subscribe, and until the next video, see you next time.